Quick play.
Sheep, 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 it's time for sleep. Rest your head, it's time for bed. In the morning, you may wake, or in the morning, you'll be dead.
Welcome to another episode of Quick Play. My name is Brian, and this week I'll be talking about a recent horror indie game called Bendy and the Ink Machine, which was released in February of 2017. It was on the PC, later on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, the Mac, iOS, and Android, so it's everywhere. It was developed by TheMeatly Games, who later turned into Joey Drew Studios, and it was published by Rooster Teeth Games and Joey Drew Studios themselves. This is a first-person horror puzzle action game built on the Unity engine. So the first question to answer, what is Bendy and the Ink Machine? Well, this is a first-person horror adventure game set in the decaying animation studio steep in the 1930s cartoon aesthetic. You're going to take on the role of Henry Stein, a retired animator who returns to Joey Drew Studios after receiving a mysterious letter from his old employer. But the studio, you'll find, is far from abandoned. Corrupted ink creatures roam the hallways, and Bendy, the once beloved cartoon mascot, has become a twisted living nightmare. As Henry delves deeper, he uncovers dark secrets about the studio's experiments, the Ink Machine, and the line between creation and monstrosity. This blends puzzle, exploration, and survival horror. It unfolds across 5 chapters in a very hauntingly stylized world. So that was the synopsis. I kind of wrote it out and read it almost verbatim, but more details about the actual game itself, the story and the concept of it is you're going to be playing as Henry Stein, as I mentioned. He is a former animator, and he is returning to his old workplace, which is called Joey Drew Studios, which is now the name of the developer of the game. They changed their name from, at the beginning, as I said, TheMeatly Games. But the concept is you return to what was once this bustling animation studios from the 1930 era, and you find it abandoned and decaying, and there's inside of it these ink horrors, and this is a good horror game. Oh my god. If you like jump scares and tension, this game does it really, really well. So Joey Drew, the studio head, has attempted to bring cartoons to life using a very mysterious ink machine. But the experiments went horribly wrong, as is tradition with horror games, and it created these twisted, semi-living ink creatures. So this game is going to explore the themes of artistic obsession and madness within Joey Drew himself. He is considered a little bit more eccentric. The cost of creativity, the legacy, the regret, and the morality of people. It unfolds across 5 chapters, and each chapter delves deeper into the studio's history and all of its dark secrets, so the story unfolds really well. And the story is really told through environmental storytelling, audio logs in that Bioshock style. So you go through, and actually you really do need to listen to the audio logs in this, because they will give you hints of how to proceed through the game, and I got stuck for a bit because of that. So the audio logs are all on these tape cassettes, and you just hit play and you listen to them. There's a little transcript that pops up, but the text is honestly really, really small, so listening to them is pretty much the key to finishing this game. The visuals in this game are very creepy but very symbolic, and you meet Bendy, a very once lovable cartoon mascot. It was fucking terrifying. He is the terrifying ink demon that stalks you through the game, and he is this cardboard cutout that's everywhere. Of course, this is the Bendy studio. So this cardboard cutout is everywhere, and it will pop out of doors. Standees will just show up in the middle of a hallway. You'll hack one down, and then you'll turn around and it'll be perfectly fixed again. It's so well done. So well done. I got chest pains from the amount of tension that was happening. I almost thought I was going to have a heart attack. Where this game really shines, so, is its art style. It is this fusion of 1930s rubber hose animation and this sepia-toned industrial horror. Color palette is very, very well done. It is, I would say, unique, but it encapsulates the feeling of this claustrophobic yet animated horror studio because the visuals look drawn as well. It draws its inspiration from like these early American cartoons like Steamboat Willie, Betty Boop, and Felix the Cat, and all those kinds of things. Well, it uses the very exaggerated character designs, the simplistic facial expressions, and then that fluid looping animation characteristics of that era of cartoons. Characters like Bendy, Boris, and Alice Angel, who you'll meet throughout the game, look like they stepped right out of a vintage black and white cartoon reel, but they are twisted and far more sinister. The environments are, like I said, rendered in this sepia filter and very high contrast shadows. It gives everything this faded, aged paper look. I think it's what I have in my notes. That's the word I was trying to look for. This nostalgic aesthetic is really corrupted by these inky black fluids, warped textures around the environment, these flickering lights, and this surreal, decaying scenery of this once great studio. The results of this is this world that feels really charming but really unsettling. It's like watching a children's cartoon that's like rotting in the that has been rotting in the dark for decades. And this is all not just for flair. They're very central to the atmosphere. They're really amplifying that game's eerie tone while playing homage to animation history. But let's get into the protagonist. That is you. That is Henry Stein. He is, as mentioned, the former animator and co-founder of Joey Drew Studios in the 1930s. He was the one who helped popularize these cartoon characters like Bendy, Boris the Wolf, and Alice Angel. And he worked really closely with the studio head, who was Joey Drew, but he left the company when he retired. The description I found of him was that he was a quiet, talented, and modest person, a very stark contrast to the ambitious nature of Joey's morally gray personality. So, as stated earlier, he received a letter from Joey Drew inviting him back to the studios years after he left. And he just kind of returns out of curiosity or this little bit of nostalgia about where he once came from. And he enters to find this abandoned, decaying studio. And as you progress through the game, there's these living ink monsters in there. The game, or Henry, slowly uncovers the truth about Joey's obsession with bringing the cartoons to life via this ink machine that you see, and a project that has twisted creativity into horror. Over the course of the game, Henry confronts his past choices that he made, the consequences of this unchecked ambition, and the kind of living nightmares born from the ink and regret. Ultimately revealed to be part of a looping cycle, it suggests that he may be trapped in a repeating purgatory tied to the studio's sins. That is Henry Stein. The antagonists, two antagonists. Let's start with Bendy, the character. You see him all over the place. So he was originally created as a cartoon mascot for Joey Drew Studios in the 1930s. He is styled as a mischievous but very lovable character in the vein of classic icons like Mickey the Mouse and Felix the Cat. He became the face of the studio's success, featuring numerous cartoons, merchandise, promotional arts, as one would have for making a studio. And then Joey Drew, obsessed with making cartoons real, using this ink machine to bring Bendy and other characters to life. The process, of course, failed. Bendy's physical form emerged as this deformed, monstrous version known as the Ink Demon, which lacks a soul or personality. The Ink Demon is non-verbal, hostile, driven by pure instincts of rage. And he kind of he symbolizes, the dark obsession of the artistic something or other of the studio. Dark side of the artistic obsession is what I have written down. I don't know why I didn't say that. Also, the corrupted innocence and failed creation of Joey Drew. And despite being the icon, he was never really given a true heart of conscience, so it makes him unstable and terrifying. He haunts the halls of Joey Drew Studios. He emerges from things like pools of ink and hunting the intruders like Henry. Like I said, those standees just pop up everywhere. So, of course, Bendy not just being this ink demon, I also mentioned the cutouts that appear everywhere. There's also like Butcher Gang variants emphasize the contrast between innocent design and monstrous form. So he's all over the place in posters and everything. You're going to see Bendy everywhere. There's a future game that expands his lore, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But I am going to get into Joey Drew, founder and owner of Joey Drew Studios, which was established in 1930s. He was the executive producer and creative head, while Henry Stein or yourself handled the artistic side. It was his dream to create a cartoon empire, and Bendy was his flagship character. He is very charismatic, but very manipulative, secretive, and obsessed with his legacy and immortality. And his methods became increasingly unethical and unhinged, pushing his employees beyond their limits. And then he, of course, experimented with these bizarre concepts, eventually developed the ink machine, and it was allegedly a tool to bring cartoons to life. The machine turned out to be supernatural or occult in nature, warping ink into these sentient, grotesque forms. He used his staff as test subjects, likely responsible for initiating this cycle of horror that traps characters in a nightmarish loop within the studio, or in the case of Henry Stein. And his public persona, while cheery and visionary, behind the scenes, he was paranoid and manipulative and driven by some sort of a god complex, like all good villains. Revealed to be... should I get in? Yeah, it revealed to be the central figure in the studio's downfall, although you're not really sure what his exact fate is. He's not at the studio when you arrive. But yeah, that is Joey Drew. So, something else that makes this game really good is the music. Composed by the game developer at the time, TheMeatly, and Pascal Michael Stiefel. It has this dark, vintage, like jazz-infused soundtrack with these very ambient horror undertones, heavily inspired by like the 1930s cartoons, and it really features this creepy music box tones and like old pianos and orchestral stabs. There is a song called Build Our Machine that is indirectly referenced and has become the unofficial theme for Bendy fandom, but it is not actually in the game or associated with the game. It's just some rando made a song about it. Because from what I know, Bendy actually became a bit of a icon in the horror video game genre for a while. But yeah, the music is what you would expect almost for the style of the game, but it pulls it off really well. The game plays, the mechanics of the game. So we know what the game is about, but this is how the game plays. So you're in a first-person perspective with that light horror and action elements in it. It's very exploration focused, so you're going to be going around the studio searching through different parts of it and solving puzzles and uncovering these secrets as you go along. It does also add these stealth elements. Stealth is often required to avoid these ink monsters and the ink demon, as a direct confrontation will often be fatal. You want minimal combat. Occasionally you'll have to use melee weapons like an axe or a pipe to defend yourself, but it's mostly against minor enemies. And it really lets you know when it's good to run and when it's good to fight. The puzzles and objectives, you got a lot of fetch quests. You got to find gears, valves, keys, and stuff like that, and the game will not let you progress until you find the proper stuff. Nice little addition, though, is when you do find something, you get close enough, it will shine, I guess, a brighter yellow, indicating that you can interact with it. There's also environmental puzzles like the power switches and the levers that will help you progress throughout the game. Musical or timing-based challenges are in there as well. And you have the audio logs and hidden messages that reveal the backstory and deepen the lore, as well as giving you hints sometimes of how to progress. There is no HUD, there is no map in this game. It's really well. At the very beginning of the game, I was running through the hallways and I had this feeling of disorientation, like I was disoriented, and there's this like tension, and I found this path that I did not know how I got there. Excuse me. So I had to backtrack, and yeah, all of a sudden it became clear. All I did was take a left when I last time took a right, and I was completely lost. It was kind of neat and at the same time kind of like frustrating, but yeah, no HUD, no map or anything like that. A lot of jump scares. which just creates a creepy atmosphere. That's pretty much. I'm not a big fan of jump scares, but you know what? I do appreciate them. It also does build the suspense through its sound, lighting, and its pacing. So jump scares aren't the only way that it scares you, but it has that, I don't know, Resident Evil meets Silent Hill level of scariness, I guess you call it. So in the later chapters are going to introduce more intense chases, boss fights, and more varied environments. So overall, the core loop of gameplay is explore, solve puzzles, avoid or escape enemies, undercover lore, progress to new areas, and that gets repeated out through the most of the thing. But that's pretty much what I can say about Bendy and the Ink Machine, and it is. I'm going to say it's a brilliantly designed game that really does encapsulate the horror genre very, very well by giving you that tension, and the jump scares are not used to do anything but just make you more tense, because there was no point a jump scare popped out that made me go, oh my god, my life's in peril. It was just, shit, my heart is now beating really fast. That's how it goes. So I'm going to give this game a solid 9 out of 10 for indie games, and I would definitely recommend it if you're into the horror genre, because it is very simplistic to play, and it's available on PlayStation Plus right now. That's where I picked it up. So if you want to play this, you can find it on PlayStation Plus, or it's probably not too expensive at this stage of its life, because the game is 8 years old right now, so that is what it is. I recommend it. 9 out of 10. This has been Brian for Quick Play. Thank you very much for listening again, and thank you very much for being a Patreon. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, you can find the link in your description of the Patreon. I think I threw one in there. If not, just send a message and we'll send you a link to the Discord. Until next time, take care.